Alright, welcome along, my name's Bosh, this is Bosh's Beginner Bits, and today we're going to look, it's kind of two videos in one this one, so it's going to be partly a track breakdown, and partly specifically looking at making things spooky. Trying to make some horror sounds, spooky sounds, all that kind of business. So this is a tune called, the project's called Sonar, and what I'm going to do, because I've titled this video Spooky Sounds, I'm going to do that bit first, and then I'm going to kind of do the rest of the track breakdown after that, just so that I'm not like clickbaiting everyone into staying into this video for the whole time, because that's not me. I don't really, I want you to watch it because you want to watch it. So let's get, oh my god, shut up. Right, let's minimize his mic channel. So I'm going to play the tune first. That's probably the best place to start. And this tune started out as like a dubby sort of tune. It's gone more in the dubstep direction. Bass line's relatively simple, but it's more, the complexity lies in the melody, I think, with this one. So let's have a listen.
Talk to all these little
Alright, so part of this I've already done a video on. If you check the most recently uploaded video before this one, I kind of discussed how to do atmosphere and effects using this track as well. So if you've watched that video, you'll recognise this is the bit that I was talking about. Yeah, so I'm not going to go over that bit. That also sounds a bit spooky and creepy, but you can go back to my other video and check that out. I'll show you how I made that and how to make similar sort of atmospheric sounds. But the sound that we're going to focus on today is that synth line. Where is it? Let me just minimize this because we don't need to be seeing that. Here we go. Now, as you can hear already, I don't know if you can hear that fuzz. That's coming from a VST that I'm using on it, one of the effects, which is the Isotope Trash. Now, this bit is using a lot of external plugins, but you can use Ableton devices as well. I'm going to try and show you which Ableton devices you can use to get similar kind of effects. But first, let's start off. What I want to do is minimize all the effects that I've got on here. Turn them all off. And then let's see what we got as the initial sound. Is it a preset? That's the question. I don't think it is. So that's a really simple sound already. That looks like, to me, it's just a sine wave. And then what we got on oscillator 2, this sub 3 shapes. I don't think that's doing too much either though, to be honest. Let's have a listen with and without. Yeah, so what that second oscillator is doing is pretty negligible, to be fair. Doesn't add much to it, but it does add something. So we've started out, we've just got a sine wave, and sorry, I'm waiting for a guy to come repair my car, so I just need to keep checking on my phone. Yeah, nothing yet, we're good. Right. Spoke too soon? No, we're good. So, Simple sine wave with a little bit of fuzz from this sub 3 shapes thing here. First thing we're going to do is add, this device is called tape cassette. Basically looks like a tape player, and you can just add classic sort of tape cassette sounds into there. We've got wow, flutter, noise, low pass, saturation, all that. Saturation is going to be pushing the input so that it's loud going in, which means it's going to distort coming out. Low pass is obviously a low pass filter. You're allowing the low end to pass through, cutting off some of the highs. Noise is noise. That's probably the crackling that you can hear when it's turned on. Wow is a bit like a phaser, I guess. It's sort of, it creates almost like a wow, wow sort of sound. I'll play that and I'm going to change this. So let's turn it on. So that's what wow does. Flutter. Yeah, so you can see what they kind of do. Noise. You can hear the noise there. So already you can hear, it's probably mostly the saturation doing this, you can hear that that's added, basically it's added distortion. So let's turn it off, and then turn it on. Yeah. So you can hear that's already added some distortion to that top end there. Let's add a reverb. Now this reverb, small and tight, size 52. So that's, imagine your reverb's in a really small room. That's what the size is. If it's imagine it's in a really big room. I like to try and visualize this when I'm making the song, and I'll try and think what kind of space would this be played in, and what kind of space is going to make it sound more what I want to sound it like. Does it want to be in a small tight room where the reverb comes straight back, or do we want a big room where the reverb just tails off? This is a really tight small reverb here, so let's get rid of this. So without, and then with. Yeah, so you can hear that. If I just stop and start it, you can hear that reverb kind of sounds like it's in a small space. Let's make it really big. Let's see how it sounds. So that's kind of, that reverb's kind of going off. I feel like it's not coming back to you, whereas the small one, you can feel that it feels like it's in a tighter space. Let's set that back to normal. What else have we got? A limiter. This is just volume control, I think. Yeah, at some point this must have been clipping. So at some point this has been going over the volume threshold I wanted it to go over, so I've put a limiter in there. It's doing, but not a lot really. Isotope Trash. Now this is a brilliant distortion plugin. But you can hear when you turn it on, it's already adding white noise and fuzz. So let's play it without. And then let's play it with. Alright. So this is a distortion unit, but it's just a really good one, and I haven't used it for ages. And as soon as I realised I wanted to get this synth sounding spooky and distorted, I knew this was the VST I were going to use for it. You could get a similar effect using amp or saturation or what's the other one? Overdrive in Ableton. You could use similar effects to get this kind of sound. But it's just distortion. It's a distortion sound. I've chosen the busted preset because I wanted it to sound spooky and weird. That's supposed to emulate like a broken hi-fi system, I guess. And what it does, the way I've set it up with the EQ here, as it gets higher in the notes, it causes more distortion. And all I've done, that's like I've only achieved that by moving this control here, so that your mid-range, the mid-range here is getting most of your sort of distortion. Let's play it. right? So you can hear how it's distorting that. Vinyl distortion, let's add that. That's adding that real top end whaley distortion, like just a bad speaker. Now that's good. It does make it sound a bit creepy and weird, but it's too bright. So I wanted to dull it down a little bit. So for when I do things like that, I use this cabinet. Now, amp and cabinet, I usually use them together because if you're a guitarist or something, you'll know that you've got an amplifier, like, you know, the famous Marshall amplifier stacks that you see where it's big stacks of speakers with an amp on top. This is supposed to emulate something like that. So what you can do is, I've got it here, it's emulating a 4x12 speaker, which means it's got 4 12-inch speakers in the cabinet. And the microphone is near to the speakers, but it's off axis, which means it's facing in a different direction. I don't know whether it means it's facing the opposite direction or if it's just, I don't know exactly the specifics of this near off axis thing, but the near on axis, off axis and far away, they're all going to change how the output sounds, because it's basically emulating a cabinet with a microphone in front of it. And if you're moving the microphone far away, it's going to catch more room noise. If you're moving it closer, it's going to be a cleaner sound. But I've done it as near and off axis just because I liked the way that sounded. Now listen to how it damps it down again. We've added distortion, and now we're going to trim away a little bit of the aggressive stuff on top. Have a listen. So this is with it off, and I'm going to turn it on for the next phrase. Yeah, so it just takes a little bit of that crunchy top bit, and that's it. I wanted to make it sound like on a horror film when they might go into a room and there might be an old gramophone playing some warped, like, nursery rhyme or something like that. I wanted it to sound a bit like that. And it's basically a bunch of distortion and emulation of different effects. So we've got a tape emulator, we've got amplifiers, we've got distortions, vinyl distortion, cabinet emulation. I'm trying to put it through as many different types of speaker and amp as possible, basically, and just push the noise so it sounds distorted and creepy and weird. Now, the next thing I've done, it's quite a simple thing. I've just added this synth on here. Now, this is a presetting hybrid. Accelerator, it's called. And let's take off the tape cassette and the utility. Now, you hear, I picked that straight away because of how, again, wonky it's sounding. It doesn't always reach every note properly. Let's have a little listen. Like, it's a bit off key sometimes. It's a little bit sharp or a little bit flat. And that's what I wanted. I don't think I changed much on this preset. I might be wrong. This was one of the first parts of it I made, though, so I honestly, I can't remember what I've done, to be fair. Have a look at the settings, though. We've got multi-wave, waveforms, oscillators. Shapes turned up on this one, down on that one. I don't really know what to tell you on this, to be honest, because, like I say, I made this early on in the process of making this tune, so I'll be honest, I can't remember what I've done to it. But it sounds nice and wonky. And when you stick it all together, it sounds like this. Let's do it from the start. Yeah. So that's the main part of making spooky sounds. I would advise whatever you use, you want to be using reverbs and distortions, amp emulation, things like that. If it all gets a bit too crispy and crunchy and too clean, You could even just use an EQ. I like the cabinet thing because it's supposed to emulate an actual speaker cabinet, but you could use an EQ and just trim the top off it and make it dull it down a little bit. Just trying to think what else you could do. Tell you what, I'm going to take out a few of the essential sounds of this that are not Ableton plugins, and then I'm going to try and make the sound with only Ableton plugins. So let's get rid of tape cassette. I'm going to leave them in, but we'll turn them off. Fine, that's Ableton, that's Ableton. That's it. Everything else is Ableton. So I need to find something to replace this tape cassette here. So let's have a look. I'm going to use overdrive for that. Let's use overdrive. Where is it? It's not in the plugins. That's for sure. Let's use overdrive here instead. And now I wanna replicate that, the warbling sound that the tape cassette's doing. How are we gonna do that? Something with an LFO. It's gonna have to be, I don't know, maybe a phaser. No, I know what I'm gonna do. Modulator. Let's get an LFO. Now I've used the LFO before. It's literally just a plain LFO that's not attached to anything. And what I want to try and do, where's the pitch? I want to find the pitch modulation. Where's the matrix here? Pitch. Oh, we can do it internally. Let's get rid of this LFO. And within, I'm going to try and make that warble sound within this. So let's get rid of. Right, well, the pitch is going to be linked to LFO1. Where's LFO1? Right, where? God, where's the LFO? Am I going blind here? Where's the LFO? Right, sorry about this, guys. I don't know. How do I not know where the LFO is in this? I can't. What? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Divvy. Right. There we go. Right, we're getting there. Let's put the amount down. So what I've done, LFO1, I've set the rate high-ish, 6.84 hertz. Let's turn the amount down a little bit. Turn it all the way down, and then I'm going to turn it back up until I can just hear enough warbling that I like it. Yep, I think that's it. Overdrive. So let's try it with the tape and turn the LFO off. And then let's try it with the LFO on and the overdrive on. Yep, so that's one way you can get the warbling effect and a bit of distortion in there by using the overdrive. Another good function is the amp. The pedal. Where is it? Here we go. Let's replace the overdrive with the pedal. And let's just get a fuzz. Something like that. Yeah, so this is ways that you can do it with Ableton plugins. You want to distort it, and you want to make it sound like it's on a record player or something, like the speeds varying a little bit. So we've got that. And what else did we need to replace? Trash. Again, I would go with... I'd maybe go with a saturator for this. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that there. I think it's close enough. It's not exact, but we're not here trying to get it down to an exact art. I'm no expert. I'm just trying to give you some ideas, basically. So let's turn that on, get rid of that. Ooh, pardon me. Trash back on. All right, we're back to the start. We're back to scratch. Yeah. So that's that side of how to make something sound a bit spooky. Distort it, put it through amps, anything you've got like that. There's loads of good effects in Ableton to do it with. So next we're going to carry on with a bit of a track breakdown kind of thing. So I'm just going to go through each track of this pretty quickly and just explain what's going on. I started this using audio samples for the drums, which I don't do often. I often use MIDI, but when I started this I thought, right, I want to use samples because I don't do it often. So here's what the kick drum's doing. And all I've got on here is just a low cut at 53 hertz. So we're losing the sub bass, but you've still got the kick, what we call the kick bass, or just the bass. Yeah. Snare channel's 2 snares. That's all that's going on in the kick. Snare channel is 2 snares. Now, with the snares, let's play each one individually. So that's the body of the snare and the reverb, and then this one. That's the high end and the crack. Also in this channel, let's move this up, we've got the snare whoosh. Now the snare whoosh is a bit like the kick here that we've got the reversed kick. Forgot to show you this, so you can see here I've just taken that same, different kick and just reversed it. Let it up there, and it sounds like this. Yeah, that leads. Feels like someone's like bringing the kick in from a long distance. We've got a similar thing going on with the snare here. This is what I call the snare whoosh, which when paired all together with the other snares, a bit of a Bruce Lee Kung Fu-esque whoosh sort of sound. Again, all I've done, what sounds this? Electro hit A clap. That's just a reversed clap. And now I don't know if you can hear, the body snares, the thicker ones, get lower in pitch. That's why I've paired it up with the other snare, so you've still got a constant like high-end hit sound, but then the low one changes the sonic qualities of the drums. Yeah, let's put that whoosh back in, and let's put the rolls in as well. Wait. Drum roll here, that's just a sample taken from some loop pack. And then I've just layered that snare on top of the end one here. Let's listen to that on its own. Pair it with this. Gives you more of a whip. Yeah. that's all that happens in the first, what is it, 8, 12, 16 bars. It's first 8 bars, what am I on about? Jesus. Yeah, the first 8 bars, all that happens. So you got variation going on, you got different things popping off. Next we got tambourines. Let's listen to those. Let's listen to these without the delay, because the filter delay is what's doing the most work here. All right, let's turn that back on and have a look at what it's doing. So the mid signal, the left and right signal, is doing a very short delay. Yeah, so that's the middle delay, and then the left and right ones are both doing one beat delays. So without that, with it, I've created rhythm without even, you know, by only putting 2 tambourines in there, and then I've made the rest of it with. God, I need to turn that off. And I've filled in the rest of the time with delays. Now you'll notice there's some automation here on that delay. That's because there's a couple of places in the track where I wanted there to be no delay. Literally just this bit here. Let me do that. Yeah, so that's just for one tambourine. I just wanted there to be no delay on it. That's it. And I think using just a tambourine instead of hi-hats adds to the kind of spooky, creepy kind of feel, because it's more of a shaken sound. It's not just a tss, tss, it's not just a tss, 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 tss. It's like so that sounds a bit, adds to it sounding a bit janky and spooky, I think. So let's have a listen to all the drums together with those tambourines. There's no hi-hats or anything, just the tambourines. Yeah, and that's it for the drums. Up next, so we got the creepy stuff. Like I say, I went into this. If you look for the video I think it's titled Ambience and Atmosphere or Effects and Atmosphere, something like that, then I've gone more in depth into this sound. But it's basically a bunch of robot speaking sounds. Let me take off the effects and that and that. And do this. Let's turn, what else can we turn off? Echo, this spinner thing, LFO. Yeah. So let's put the effects back on. I'll go through the chain briefly, but like I say, I've explained all this part in another video. But this is the track breakdown, so I've got to go through it on here and as well. Set that flanger on. Drowning reverb, drowning effects makes it sound completely different. And again, adds a bit of spook because of all the reverb and delay. And it just sounds like a creepy little, like, I don't know, something creeping around. It's a bit of a weird sound. Yeah, sounds a bit wet as well. Right, what else we got? Bass. Now, I've got 2 sub-channels here, which is a bit strange, but I'll explain. So the first one... No, let's go to the second one. The second one is just a sub. Yeah, no edits on that. This is a sub that's been saturated and put through the multiband dynamics to up the bass. So let's hear it without the saturation and the multiband. Add the saturation in. And this is using saturation knob, But you can use Ableton saturation as well for the exact same effect. I just really like saturation knob. You can see a lot of overdrive happening there. And then the dynamics, I've just pushed the sub there, so the sub bass there is going a bit mental. All together, you just get a really nice, heavy sub. And that's all that is for most of the tune, apart from a bit later on, where the warps come in. So here you can see operator. Operator's got a, I haven't even got an LFO1 technically. Just got an envelope, a warp envelope. Now, what is getting automated there? Something is. LFO1. There's got to be something else being automated there. There it is. Oscillator B coarse frequency. Oh yeah. There's definitely something else opening that up, but what is it? What is it? It's not the coarse frequency. Can't be the LFO1. What is it? Something's making that sound open up and I don't know what it is. Let's put the echo back on for a second, the EQ. Oh no. Ah, it's the velocity. That's what's doing it. Alright, so the first warp is defined by the coarse on oscillator 2 being set to 2, and then the second one, it's set to 4. I've EQ'd the bass out of it, low end, little echo on there, and then more EQing. So that's without the echo, without the EQ. Yeah, your sub's still in there. We don't want that. We don't want that because we've already got bass here, so we don't need double bass, or we don't need triple bass because we've already got double bass here. Is there any need for the double bass? Probably not. I'm not going to advise having 2 bass tracks. There's no need for it. Like, you could just turn one bass track up. But I just wanted to see what I could do with just making the bass solid at every note, because it jumps quite... Bass is a weird one to play with, especially sub, because low down, like your F through to G sharp, A maybe, are going to be good sub notes, and they're going to really pump through like... Once you get above A, towards your C, D, E, you start getting out of the sub bass range and into the normal bass range. You don't get... It doesn't sound the same. It'll lose some of its bass qualities as you go higher up. So I thought doubling it and pumping it with the dynamics and everything would just mean that the higher bass frequencies will still feel heavy like bass does, and you should still be able to feel it in your body through the system. Listen, I could be making it up. I could be absolutely chatting shit here. But that's what I've done, and that's the reason why I've done it. So come for me if you think I'm wrong. We've broken down the synth. That's all well and good. The intro is just the synth, but going through a load of reverb. Not as many distortion effects on there. It's more about the reverb on here. That's that. I don't think that happens again in the tune. We've got... the sample. The sample, me and my girlfriend were sat here and she's like, oh, just put something random in there. Why are you trying to find something so specific to the track? So I thought, all right, I'll put something random in there.
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
So this is a lady called Sweet Pussy Pauline. The track's called Work This Pussy. And I've literally just cut a small bit from it.
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
All right. And then I've used Little Alter Boy, which is my favourite pitch plugin. If you don't have Little Alter Boy, you're probably going to have to automate the pitch within the audio file by using your pitch here. I'll have to come up with another way to do that and show you how to do it. But at the moment, I use Little Alter Boy. But don't worry if you don't have it. There are ways to achieve the same effects. I just don't know what they are at the moment, apart from changing the pitch in there. So let's have a look.
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
And all that is a 12 semitone pitch drop, formant drop in 12 as well. And then a bit of drive so it gets distorted. And then I'm just automating the mix.
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
And then chopped it, and that's it. What else is on there? If there's something I've taken off. Why does that seem so loud now? Was it always that loud?
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
So I've got Little Alter Boy for the pitch, and then the compressor just to keep everything in line and just squash down anything that might happen to jump above the peak there. Like I say, the way to... here's something quite useful. If you are using any external plugins and you want to automate things in them, what you have to do is click on the thing you want to automate. So I'll click on pitch. And then go down to these little boxes here and pick it. Pitch. And then you'll be able to automate the pitch by moving this knob up and down there. The left one is from left to right. The right one is from top to bottom. Let's see what happens if I do.
I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers. I want to talk to all these little motherfuckers.
Yeah, so that's what that's doing. Let's have another listen to another bit. I think that's the same bit.
Well, my name is Sweet Pussy Pauline, and I got a story that I want to share with you this evening.
Yeah, and that's just the sample at the drop. Next thing, which doesn't go all the way through, I'm going to make that go all the way through, is the amp noise. Now, this is very quiet. So I'm going to turn it up. And let me show you how I've made this. Oh my god, there's all sorts going on. Right, I'm going to turn each one of these off and show you how I made this. And let's show you what the original sound is. The original sound sounds like this. Jesus. Alright, let's turn that down a bit. So that is distortion from an amplifier. Now, what I've done is EQ'd it first. Let's take the low end out. Not all the low end, just some of it. Phaser and flanger. So that's it without. Sounds pretty flat. And then with. Adds a bit of movement. Reverb. That's what makes it quiet. So I've drowned it in reverb, 100% wet. Only the high end is coming through. See, only high end there. Little pre-delay, big size, shortish delay. Let's check my settings. Now we can turn this up a little bit more. Got a utility here. This might... Utility is just up to volume a little bit there as well. EQ8. Yeah, so that's not doing too much. It's just taking a little bit of low end frequency out. Utility to reduce volume again. This is funny. LFO. Aha, not to reduce volume. So the LFO you can see is controlling the utility. Yep, check the settings. The jitter's set real high if I turn that down. It's a bit more uniform. Undo. Let's put the smoothness up. Let's get rid of the smooth. Turn it off. Yeah, so all that's doing is automating the volume of the utility here. And then reverb again. And then another utility. Yeah, so that's the sound that we've ended up with there. And that sits, I'm sure it was like minus 50.6. That plays all the way under the tune, but really quietly. You can't properly hear it, but it just means that there's always a little bit of atmosphere or background noise in there in the tune. And that is it. That's your lot. Is there what else can cover? I think that's it. This tune is currently unfinished. Still working on it. Still needs a few little edits and things. Needs tidying up in some places. But yeah, that's it. So, what have we covered? We've covered how to make your sound a bit distorted, degraded and spooky. We've covered just breaking down this whole track and figuring out how I've put the sounds together and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave it there. If you want to get the project files that go along with some of these tutorials, you can do. You can go to scrapsaudio.com and they've got them all over there. There's only certain ones I'll say in the video if there's going to be a project file for it. I'm not going to put this project file up just yet because the tune's not finished. I want to get it finished first before I do anything like that. But for now, it's just the YouTube video. And finally, if you like what you've seen, go check out the rest of my channel. I do all sorts of Ableton-based music tutorials. I try to use as many native plugins as possible, so it's as easy for you guys to follow as possible. If you like what you've seen, click subscribe, hit like, share it, comment, all that business. I'll reply to everyone. I'm going to close it there. My name's Bosh. This has been Bosh's Beginner Bits. Ciao.